January the 1st, pharmaceutical giant Merck has recalled doses of the Gardasil vaccine. Recalled were 743,000 doses of the vaccine due to glass contamination. It's not very good. Why on earth do they want to be injecting girls as well as boys now with Gardasil? They really don't need it at their age. Also on January the 1st, a 6.6 magnitude earthquake hit the South Pacific island nation of Vanuatu. The US Geological Survey says a 6.6 magnitude earthquake hit the island nation. There are no immediate reports of danger or injuries, and no tsunami warning. And the USGS report says the quake hit 443 kilometres north of the capital of Vanuatu, Port Vila, and the quake was at a depth of 196 kilometres or 122 miles. In Britain, a monster sinkhole swallowed a field after extreme wet weather. It was 160 foot wide and 130 foot deep, and the chasm opened up in the Peak District. Indonesia, more than 19,000 people have been displaced by the Mount Sinabung volcano. It's been erupting for months, and it shot lava up into the air 9 times during one day and sent hot rocks and ash 7,000 metres into the air. The Department of Health and Human Services in the United States has ordered 14 million doses of potassium iodide to counter the effects of radiation. According to a solicitation posted on the Federal Business Opportunities website, the DHHS asked contractors to supply potassium iodide tablets, 65 milligram unit dosed in a package of 20. Now, what are they wanting that for? We do know that from Fukushima that the radiation being released there in the water is 26 times that released at Hiroshima. So something terrible is about to happen that we're not being told about. And there are signs and indications in the United States that areas of the ocean there, close to the coast, are heavily irradiated. Signs in the heavens. I've got this report. It says the sun has flipped upside down. Well, I must have missed that one. With its north and south poles reversed to reach the midpoint of solar cycle 24, said NASA today. The magnetic fields will once again start moving in opposite directions to begin the completion of the 22-year-long process, which will culminate in the poles switching once again.
Welcome back now. The sun has undergone a complete field reversal, that is, its north and south poles changing places as it marks the midpoint of solar cycle 24. Experts say that the reversal of the sun's magnetic field is literally a big event, and it's a regular part of the solar cycle. While it may seem like the event could have a catastrophic repercussion for the galaxy, its effects are actually more subtle, mostly interfering with space exploration. Some researchers say cosmic rays are a danger to astronauts and space probes and might affect the cloudiness and climate of Earth. NASA has released a visualization of how the switch occurs. Beginning in 1997 and ending in 2013, it shows the green positive polarity switching with the purple negative polarity. Solar cycle 24 has been viewed as quite unpredictable. First, it came late by about a year, with extremely low activity recorded throughout 2009. This prompted astronomers to shift a predicted 2012 peak to 2013.
In the United States, swine flu has killed 1% of America's pigs. The US Department of Agriculture on Friday reported that the US hog herd, as of December the 1st, was 99% of what it used to be, or 65,940,000 porkers. Now, January the 3rd, bitter cold grips the northeast of the United States as wind chills reach almost 60 below zero. The bitter cold that gripped the snow-covered mountain northern tier from Cleveland to Boston on Friday showed no signs of easing as another Arctic blast roared out of Canada and threatened to drive weekend temperatures way down. Now, on January the 4th in Britain, the UK was swept by a destructive 17-year high tidal surge, and coastal waters in the south and the west of the UK have been swept with waves of up to 10 metres, that's 30 feet, causing flooding and destruction. Dozens of homes were flooded, piers damaged, roads and railway tracks, including major ones, affected.
The signs of the times they interpret as foreshadowing this. But what saith the word of inspiration? Sudden destructions cometh upon them. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 3. Upon all who dwell on the face of the whole earth, upon all who make this world their home, the day of God will come as a snare. The world, full of rioting, full of godless pleasure, is asleep, asleep in carnal security. Men are putting afar off the coming of the Lord. They laugh at warnings. The proud boast is made, all things continue as they were from the beginning. Tomorrow shall be as this day, and much more abundant. 2 Peter 3 verse 4, Isaiah 56 verse 12. We will go deeper into pleasure-loving, but Christ says, Behold, I come as a thief. Revelation 16 verse 15. At the very time when the world is asking in scorn, where is the promise of his coming? The signs are fulfilling. While they cry, peace and safety, sudden destruction is coming. When the scorner, the rejecter of truth, has become presumptuous, when the routine of work in the various money-making lines is carried on without regard to principle, when the student is eagerly seeking knowledge of everything but his Bible, Christ comes as a thief, a heaven to win. Watch ye therefore, and pray always. Luke 21 verse 36. The days in which we live are solemn and important. The Spirit of God is gradually but surely being withdrawn from the earth. The condition of things in the world shows that troublous times are right upon us. The daily papers are full of indications of a terrible conflict in the near future. Bold robberies are of frequent occurrence. Strikes are common. Thefts and murders are committed on every hand. Men possessed of demons are taking the lives of men, women, and little children. Men have become infatuated with vice, and every species of evil prevails. Everything in the world is in agitation. The signs of the times are ominous. Coming events cast their shadows before. The Spirit of God is withdrawing from the earth, and calamity follows calamity by sea and by land. There are tempests, earthquakes, fires, floods. Restlessly are they waiting and watching the movements of their leaders. There are those who are waiting and watching and working for our Lord's appearing. Another class are falling into line under the generalship of the first great apostate. Few believe with heart and soul that we have a hell to shun and a heaven to win. The crisis is stealing gradually upon us. Men are still eating and drinking, planting and building, marrying, and giving in marriage. Merchants are still buying and selling. Men are jostling one against another, contending for the highest place. Pleasure lovers are still crowding to theaters, horse races, gambling hells. The highest excitement prevails, yet probation's hour is fast closing, and every case is about to be eternally decided. Solemnly there come to us down through the centuries the warning words of our Lord from the Mount of Olives. Take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting, and drunkenness, and cares of this life, and so the day come upon you unawares. Maranatha, pages 34 to 35.
On January the 5th, a 5.9 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Chile, reported the US Geological Survey. There were no reports of damage. On January the 6th, Canada plunged into a deep freeze, with exposed skin freezing in less than 5 minutes. This is Ottawa. Extreme cold has disrupted flights and school classes, causing widespread power outages, and it created havoc on the roads. Temperatures were as low as minus 50 degrees, that's Celsius, with a wind chill colder than the surface of Mars. Now, former Seventh-day Adventist pastor Ryan Bell, who lost all his jobs after announcing he will experiment with atheism for a year, is currently getting overwhelming financial support from atheists and others after revealing in the fourth day of his controversial experiment that he was running out of money. Well, everyone has two choices. Choose to serve God or choose to serve the devil. And it looks like he's chosen the latter. 100,000 bats fell dead from the sky during a heat wave in Australia in the northeastern state of Queensland. It looked like an Alfred Hitchcock movie as the heat wave moved across, causing the mass deaths of the flying foxes from an estimated 25 colonies. Horrible way to die. Now this is the 11th of January. Animals are collapsing and falling down from the sky as Australia continues to sizzle in record-breaking temperatures. After the 100,000 bats fell from the sky, there are reports now of kangaroos fainting because of exhaustion. Large number of kangaroos, parrots and emus have reportedly died out in the outback of Queensland. And hunters have seen groups of kangaroos staying near waterholes to cool down and seek relief from rising temperatures. And the weather in that area has been around 50 degrees Celsius. A man has declared himself to be Jesus, and he's been travelling around since 1979. He's travelled over 27 countries to spread his false word, and he's been expelled from the US, Britain and Venezuela, and now he's in Brazil, and he's trying to gather his followers together. They're mainly young women, and he calls himself Inri Christ. Cuba has been rattled by a 5.1 magnitude earthquake, and it startled office workers in medium-rise buildings, and they started swaying. No damage or injuries that's known so far, and it was about 106 miles, 172 kilometres east of Havana, according to the US Geological Survey. January the 13th, a strong cyclone hits Tonga at Nuku'alofa, and one person died. Authorities were searching the remote islands for more cyclone victims after the powerful storm raced into Tonga, and most powerful storm in a decade, and cut a swathe of destruction through the South Pacific archipelago. 14th of January, floods kill 20 and landslides displace thousands. Now this is in Manila in the Philippines. It was after 2 days of heavy rains, and it just set off the floods and the landslides, and 13 were missing and thousands displaced, officials said Monday. Most of the dead and missing came from floods and landslides that hit the Compostela Valley. Also an earthquake, magnitude 6.5, struck off Puerto Rico off to the north. The quake initially reported as a magnitude 6.4. It was very shallow at a depth of 17 miles. And it struck 35 miles. It's 56 k's north of the town of Haitio. Now this is 16th of January 2014. Now Japan used to account for 15% of all global fish catches, but now this is 3 years after the earthquake and subsequent tsunami which struck Fukushima. The sales are plummeting, and a lot of the fish are irradiated. The Japanese government-affiliated Fisheries Research Agency just announced on January the 10th that it had caught a black sea bream fish contaminated with radioactive cesium, an amount 124 times higher than the safety standard.